Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 4. In my last video I was going over this table here that's on the two witnesses, and as you can see in this table the two names that show up are the names Enoch and Elias, and as you can see the names are going out in opposite directions with the words my two witnesses and the two olive trees right in between them. And then I was explaining how when the name Enoch shifts over so that it's all in one line, it creates a triangle with the names Enoch, Elias, and the two candlesticks standing before the Lord right in the middle. This all seems to create a triangle, which seems to represent the temple of God. And this is something that I had come to understand before seeing this video. I'll just show you this little, instead of pulling the video up again, I'll just show you from my last video. It's got the video in here of Natan giving his testimony, and he had explained how he saw the two witnesses coming out of the mountain, one from one side and one from the other. He didn't actually say they were the two witnesses. He just said he saw that the graves of two dead people that had risen from their graves, one from one side of the mountain and one from the other, as the mountain split in two. And over here you see the two names of the two witnesses. Apparently these are the two witnesses because they seem to come up in all of the tables. I don't want to say for a fact that it's the two witnesses, but I just don't see how it couldn't be when they're coming up like that, right where it says the two candlesticks and the two olive trees and the two witnesses right between the two names. Either way you pull it up, whether the names, when the names are apart, you have my two witnesses and the two olive trees right in the middle, and then when the names are together you have the two candlesticks standing right in the middle. And it's coming up right in Revelation 11 where it's talking about the two witnesses, and these names come up, and they also come up in all of the Hebrew Bible code tables. From what I understand from other code searchers, they say that these names come up consistently in regard to the two witnesses. So I'm assuming these must be the two witnesses. Of course, I don't want to add or take anything away from the book of Revelation. I'm just showing that these names come up in the New Testament as well, right where it talks about the two witnesses. And I had explained that this is one of the reasons why I'm convinced that Natan's testimony is true, because I had come to understand that the two witnesses represent are represented by the Mount of Olives. If you go to Zechariah 14, where it talks about the Mount of Olives being split in two, I just want to point out that the word olives can also mean olive tree, and that's the same in the Greek. It's the same way. The same word for olive is the same word for olive tree. So the Mount of Olives could just as easily be called the Mount of Olive Trees, because it's the same word for olive or olive tree. So it could just as easily be referred to as a Mount of Olive Trees. And I had come to understand that it was actually representing the two olive trees because of the similarities between Zechariah 14:4 and Zechariah 4, as well as Revelation 11. Because in Zechariah 4 you have the temple being measured, and a plummet is referred to as the headstone, which is the top piece of the temple, but it's also a measuring instrument for measuring the temple and making a straight line down the middle. And then right after the measuring of the temple, it talks about the two witnesses. And so I had come to understand, probably just a couple of months before I saw the video of Natan's testimony, that the Mount of Olives actually represents the two witnesses. And then when he gave his testimony, I was more sure of what I had discovered and convinced that his testimony must be true, because I don't think that's anything that anyone else has really talked about. I've never heard anyone teach that or explain that. And that's just one of the things that I had come to understand that was actually confirmed by his testimony. There's more to it than that I would like to get into and try to explain if time permits before the Lord returns, but I just don't know if I'm going to have time to explain that or not. But there was actually more that I had come to understand that was confirmed by his testimony. And I just want to explain that when you go to the book of Revelation, where it talks about the candlesticks, you'll see that the candlesticks represent the church. Let me just put in candles. Sorry about that, I had spelled candlesticks wrong. But over here, when you put in the word candlesticks or 7 candlesticks, you'll see that it's talking about the churches. It says over here in Revelation 1:20, it says, "The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches." And then I just want to show you, if you go back to Zechariah, sorry about that. Okay, I was going to say Zechariah 4, where it's talking about the 7 candlesticks as well. If you read Zechariah 4 in the context, you'll see that it's talking about the 7 candlesticks, and it's explaining the same imagery. But when you go to Zechariah 3, let me just read this to you. It comes right before Zechariah 4, where it's talking about the 7 candlesticks. It says, "And he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord said unto Satan, The Lord rebuke you, O Satan, even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is this not a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with a change of raiment." Okay, so Joshua is the name Yeshua in the Old Testament. And when I was reading this one day, I had noticed in the Greek that the description of the change of raiment is actually a word in the Greek which means down to the foot, a garment that goes down to the foot. And I recognized this as being a word that was used in the book of Revelation. And this is actually how I made the connection of what is being talked about in Revelation, in Zechariah 3, that it was actually a parallel for the book of Revelation, because if you look this word up, you'll see that it's only used one time, and that's in Revelation 1:3. So if we go back to the Blue Letter Bible and we put in the word candlestick, and I'll try to spell it correctly this time. Okay, you see it goes to Revelation 1:13, and it's using the same word. It says, in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. So it's using the same word to describe the garment. It's this word right here. This word right here is bodiri, means down to the foot in the Greek, and it's the same word that was used in Zechariah 3, which was right before Zechariah 4, which is talking about the 7 candlesticks. So there's a direct parallel between Zechariah 3 and 4. We have Jesus standing in the middle of the 7 candlesticks. And then we see in Revelation 1:13 and 1:20 that the 7 candlesticks represent the 7 churches. And then we see in Zechariah 4 that the 2 anointed ones are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks. And then we see the same thing in Revelation 11, that the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks are standing by God, standing before the God of the earth. And in Zechariah 4, they were standing before the God of the whole earth. So it's talking about the same thing in the Old Testament as it is in the New Testament. And I just wanted to point that out because I also have another table that I've done. And this one is on Enoch and Elijah. And I just want to show you this one as well. This one doesn't have visual imagery so much. It doesn't form a picture, but it does have both names. And this is a table I haven't gone over yet. All the other tables I've gone over before, but this one is one that I haven't gone over yet. But over here in the pink you can see the name Elijah, and this time it's spelled with the Old Testament spelling, and it's coming up in Kings 22:13. So it's coming up in the Old Testament, so it makes sense for it to be spelled with the Old Testament spelling, whereas this table was coming up in Revelation 11, so it makes sense for it to be spelled with the New Testament spelling. But over here you see the name Elijah with the letters E-L-I-J-A-H, and you see the name Enoch crossing through the name Elijah with the letters E-N-O-C-H. And over here you see the word stand. Over here you see the word earth. And over here you see Satan. Or well, actually here you see star, the word star in the burgundy with the letters S-T-A-R. You see the word cast here in the green, and it looks like it's sharing the A in Satan and possibly the S in stand. And then you see the T here for cast. And then, well, actually I think it's going this way, C-A-S-T. So sharing the A in Satan, the S in stand, and the T, and it's coming at an angle this way, the word cast. And over here in the yellow you have the word Satan, the letters S-A-T-A-N. And then we saw in Zechariah 3 how Joshua was standing with Satan at his right hand to defy him. And this is the imagery just before Satan is cast from heaven, apparently. And I'm going to have to continue in the next video.